Our food theft is under $950, so we're good to go.
Okay, have a nice day. On this episode of He Said, She Heard, I travel to the West Coast. Well, not really. I stay here in Pennsylvania. But I sit down with LA-based comedian Flobo Boyce, who is also a podcaster and an author. Speaking of California, did you know in California there's a lot of dumb laws? We're going to talk about some of those dumb laws in a skit called California's Dumbest Laws. All this and more on He Said, She Heard.
Oh yeah, listen to the Fox's podcast. Let me put it back on.
Besides listening to us from any corner of the world, you know that you can watch us too.
È possibile vedere anche il video di questo episodio collegandovi sul sito www.hesaidSheHeard.com.
If you want to watch this episode, you can head over to our website, www.hesaidSheHeard.com.
Listen to the Fox's podcast. Let me put it back on.
She heard a silly noise. I know what's going on. He said that's not what happened. Girl, you got it wrong. He said she heard about what's going on.
Oh yeah.
He said she heard about what's going on. About what's going on.
Hey Foxer.
Is traveling with an extra pair of sneakers a pain in the ass? Kickstrap is the only attachable shoe bag that secures around any backpack or golf bag that allows you to carry your extra pair of sneakers hands-free while it separates dirt and odor away from your personal belongings inside your bag. Kickstrap is made from water-resistant, top-grade, ripstop polyester and is sold on Amazon. Get yours today by searching Kickstrap Shoe Bag on Amazon or by visiting www.kickstrap.co. That's KICKSTRAP.co. Thank you for joining us for this episode of He Said, She Heard, which may end up being your favorite. So don't forget to click the share and subscribe buttons, and also to keep this international comedy and music show going and growing, there's a Become a Patron button. When you click the Become a Patron button, you'll see there's perks for supporting the show. Listen, share, support. Back to the show now. Welcome to the new He Said, She Heard. I'm Mike Fox, and later on the show today, we'll play a skit for you called California's Dumbest Laws. But speaking of California, joining me today from Los Angeles, California, is a professional comedian, author, podcaster, and a jack of many other trades that we'll get into. Please welcome Flobo Boyce. How are you, Flobo?
I was going to say, speaking of dumb, we have a guest here today. I was like, yeah, that's also valid. I'm sure I'm not the first person to say this, but man, I love your voice. I am transported to LA Confidential. It is amazing. So much resonance.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
Yeah.
You know, Flobo, the reason I brought you on the show was I was impressed with your comedian resume, you know, sharing the stage with the likes of Mark Maron and Tony Baker. Tell us about those experiences, man.
Well, you know, like most things, good things in life was by accident, right? I kind of fell into stand-up. I wanted to be a comedian for a lot of my life, but it was actually a near-death experience that got me into comedy. And so everything I do, it's like playing with house money. So you're doing the LA grind, you're going through these holes in the wall, you're trying to work on your craft, and then every so often someone goes, hey, I like your energy. I get that a lot. I like your energy, man. Like, what about material? I don't worry about that, but your energy is great. You go out, open the show, get the crowd warmed up for someone else. I've done that for Mark Maron, Effian Crockett, Tony Baker, Amy Schumer dropped in, but yeah, it was kind of a cool experience to do that.
So what clubs were you frequenting over in LA?
Yeah, I call Flappers in Burbank my home club.
Flappers in Burbank. Okay.
Yeah, it has this Roaring 20s theme, so they have like the little servers
cool.
wearing like little feather boas and stuff like that, the feathers in the hair and stuff. I like it because it's free parking, which is kind of rare in Los Angeles, and so I tell people, hey, come to the show. It has a kind of a homely feel. But when it comes to like hallowed ground, the Comedy Store is really like the mecca.
The Comedy Store.
Pauly Shore owns it now. Laugh Factory is actually pretty big. I've done that a couple times. But as far as like me working my material, I go to Flappers in Burbank for sure.
Right. So what's your favorite bit that you've always done that you've noticed it always gets a surefire laugh on stage?
Oh yeah, it's kind of funny because like I have the worst accent about it, but I liked watching soccer. I was studying abroad. I wasn't a soccer person. I was studying abroad, and I realized how big soccer was. I was in Costa Rica during the World Cup, and the whole town shut down. There was no way for me to go. And I was enamored with like British soccer commentators because they had like this. They're British, but they had this weird staccato like dialect that only makes sense for them. So my first bit that killed, and as a comic, you'll never forget it because the first time you're like, oh man, I could repeat this from town to town, was what if like British soccer commentators were like following me around, you know what I mean? So like I would go like, Flobito was going to give his friend a high five, but he wanted a fist bump instead. It was a calamity. Like it was just so funny to be like how bad it was, and someone was sitting in the booth going like, "What an awkward person Flobo is."
I could just hear like afterwards, you get off the stage, and the MC would probably make a reference to that particular joke. Am I right?
Oh yeah, that's when you know it's a signature. When people go or they say make merch about it. I haven't done that yet, but they make merch about it because people know.
Yeah, exactly. Like some type of buzzword or quote. Just like me, you're also a podcaster, but Flobo does not only host one podcast. People, Flobo, you have a whole slew network of podcasts, and you call it New Amsterdam, but that's spelled K-N-E-W Amsterdam, and then the word Amsterdam, which our listeners / viewers can access at knewamsterdam.com. Tell us about that, Flobo.
Yeah, it was interesting because I had to go back to 2017. New Amsterdam was originally supposed to be a notebook company, a stationery company, because as a comic, I would write my jokes by hand. And everyone who did comedy, even though they had phones and apps and stuff, they still write the jokes by hand. So I said, hey, look, let me have a company that would reference my hometown, which is New York City, Brooklyn specifically, which was the old name for New York City. It was by the Dutch. It was called New Amsterdam.
New Amsterdam. That's good history right there.
Yeah, that's right. I'm smart, I tell you. And K, for two reasons. One, copyright, obviously. But two, the pursuit of knowledge, right? The creative process and pursuit. So Notebook Company lasted about a year. It collapsed. I actually mentioned this in my book. So forgive me if you guys have read it already. But I mentioned my book, but when I came down to my own podcast show, the first podcast I did was called New Amsterdam Radio because I owned the URL, I owned a brand, and I wanted to have a show for creative people, almost like the spirit of the notebooks were living on in this. And so it was just me on the mic talking about things that were interesting to me. But when the pandemic came and they basically said, hey, you comedians are non-essential, stay home, I'm like, well, how am I going to entertain with no audience? And so I brought guests on to New Amsterdam. And then I said, hey, what can I put into comedy for other things? So I have a wrestling and comedy show called Twisting Gold, or and a comedy and Star Trek show called Commander's Log. Or I'll do Global Start on Netflix, where I talk about the obscure, like Netflix original movies, but like original movies in like Australia or like Saudi Arabia. I get to go on and be like, what's going on here? And give comedy to that. So overnight, it went from being a podcast, whatever I felt like doing, to having a network of about 7 or 8 where I juggle weekly to get new content out there for, and it's all under the New Amsterdam umbrella.
So this all started during the pandemic.
The podcast network, New Amsterdam was
your
before
whole
the
network.
Yeah,
oh my goodness,
absolutely, man. New Amsterdam was a podcast on its own, but then the network came completely being stuck at home.
Wow, because of the success of one, you're like, okay, let me try this other one.
It helps you to keep track of time. Like people don't realize that there was a time like the pandemic where it felt like sleepaway camp. You woke up and you're like, is it Wednesday? Is it Saturday? Is it
you don't know. You didn't know which day it was, right? It's like being in an alternate reality in a way,
right? It was like Tiger King was on. I remember that, but after that, it was all fuzzy,
right? Especially when you turn on the TV, you turn on the MLB network, and you're seeing Brewster's Millions play all day. You don't see any games on. You're seeing sports movies, and you're like, wait a minute, this was on yesterday. What day is today?
Right, man. And if you got to Korean baseball, I did for a couple weeks because I was like, there's no other sport to watch.
Wow. Now, let's just talk about that love of pro wrestling that you have. And, you believe that, and I quote what you said, you can learn anything in life from pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So here's the deal. People hate when I say this, but it's absolutely true. Wrestling and Shakespeare around for modern audiences. We look at Shakespeare as high art now, but back then it was these mass stories for rich people, poor people, everyone to come around. And that's what wrestling is. It's a visual art form. So I learned about combat, defending yourself, standing up for yourself. I learned about storylines with like betrayal and friendship. And I'll give an example of something really, really relevant to me today or this year. So in California, we have mask mandates, but it's by county. And I'm a wedding DJ as well. So I will go to San Diego. Yeah, I'll go to San Diego, which is a lot more, I don't say liberal, but they don't really have one. And I would feel uncomfortable because I'm so used to doing LA weddings, for example. I would have my mask on. Everyone would say, hey, man, you don't have to do that here. It's okay.
You don't have to wear that here, man.
We're
cool. It's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. And peer pressure is a real thing, especially when you're a vendor and it's someone's wedding. You feel like you're totally doing a faux pas. Like me coming to your house and putting my feet on the couch. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But there is a wrestler, for example, his name is Roman Reigns, who's wrestling now, top of his game, but he took a year off about a couple of years ago because he had a leukemia. Yeah, he had leukemia and in real life. He had leukemia and he took about a year off and he came back and he's in remission. But he's still technically immunocompromised. So I remember watching a match against Demon Finn Balor, for those who keep in score, and the fight empties outside, and Demon Finn Balor is going into the crowd, and Roman Reigns stops, puts his hands out, and goes, mask, and his manager gives him a mask, and I
gives
said,
him one.
And it works for his character. He's a bad guy.
He's a villain,
but like it's our heel. But I'm like, my gosh, like, you know what? I have the confidence now to be like, look, I'm going to these shows. If I feel comfortable doing this until there's like a whole, don't worry about it. It's over now on the news. And I want to keep doing it. And I feel like that was such a cool moment for the character and me. So I'm always learning from wrestling. I watch it every week. I do 2 podcasts, one on my own network, one for the Ringer/Spotify. And so I get to talk about it for hours a week.
Wow. So the pandemic's been a blessing for you in that regard.
Yeah, it's a weird survivor's remorse thing. I tell people it's kind of like a wreck in a NASCAR race or a F1 race. You slow down, safety car comes out, some people gain position, some people slow down. But yeah, for me, it was totally a blessing,
And tell us about your book called Graduation Day, which is now on Amazon, folks.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. Woo! I've written nonfiction before. Taking a step back, when I was graduating college, I sat in the audience and my commencement speaker was a guy that worked at Walmart. And I said, I'm not knocking Walmart, but people got like Oprah. Like what was high school doing? And there were so many things I thought I knew about life. I thought I knew about being an adult that you learn it's not true. And everyone always tells you, hey, if you could tell a younger person something, what would you say? I say nothing at all, because I think this journey was great. But what would I tell somebody else? Is what this book's about. So every chapter I go through things where I've learned something, like when I was lost in Italy, where I lost 150 pounds working out, where I tried doing a motorcycle. Yeah, at the end, it wraps up into like my actual commencement speech. And so Graduation Day is named the book. It's available on Amazon.
That's pretty deep, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Then, getting back to wrestling, what I like about the wrestling thing that you do is you also harken back on some of the episodes. I noticed some of the old classic days of wrestling, which is the era that I remember. I'm talking 30 years ago, early 90s, when my dad bought my brother and I tickets to see Hogan and Flair in Pittsburgh. We were just so excited. We were just screaming just to be there, right there, just to see these 2 headliners go at it together.
Oh yeah. To me, like when it comes to wrestling and the Mets, like there's always a bunch of nostalgia. My dad, my parents are immigrants and they came to this country in the 70s. And my dad would tell me stories as a kid, like I went to go see Chief Jay Strongbow and Bruno Sammartino. And by then they were already past my prime, but to be able to have that experience to tell your children so excitedly. Now I can say, hey, when I was a kid, when I was your age, I saw The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Now you're a resident of California. How long you been living in the Golden State for?
Oh man, I hate to count, man. But 2007, August 4th, 2007 is my California anniversary. And transplants really do take thing of that. I came out here for grad school. I was going to be a film star. I was going to be an editor. That's what I came out here for. Of course, many different twists and turns.
Understood. But
yeah, that's what I came out here. 07. Went straight from undergrad to grad school.
Wow. Now, as a resident of California, there are a lot of strange laws, and later on we're going to play a skit that's going to be about a lot of these strange laws. Now, from your own experience, what do you think is one of the weirdest laws of California?
I won't say it's a weird law. I think weird enforcement. You can actually get a ticket for jaywalking. And as somebody from Brooklyn, I didn't think that was possible. I was like, everyone walks in the street. What's the big deal? But my friend crossed the street one time, he got pulled over by a cop on a motorcycle and gave him a ticket for jaywalking. I was like, oh, wow. It blew my mind. But
yeah, because people do it all the time. You see the lights green, boom, boom, boom. People are like, nah, I don't care. You're going to stop for me.
Right. It's if you get hit, it's on you. That's kind of what we said back home. But
they're like, oh, you get hit, so it's your problem.
Yeah, get the break.
Wow. But I did not know there was actual jaywalking law in California.
Yeah, enforcement. Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard in LA, it's like you're not allowed to wash your friend's car, your neighbor's car or something. That's apparently against the law.
Yeah, not so much anymore, but like a couple of years ago, the drought was so bad. There were a lot of drought rules about washing cars certain days. They were paying you to convert your lawn into like cacti and stuff. Like it was bad for a long time.
Wow. So what do you got coming up? What's next for Flobo?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I'm doing nothing.
I'm entering my Zen zone now, right?
I'm actually a bum. It's one of the shows I'm on, the wrestling show called Mac Mania. That one is a Ringer exclusive. So Ringer was a brand by Bill Simmons, who was on ESPN, and they have a wrestling lineup. So that's kind of like the main gig, I guess. Now, I was just trying to get back into the comedy thing, stand up. I think with having two albums out, I had a little Cookies and Beer, and then American for Now. Trying to get back into the swing of the things. I do think it's a bread and butter. Even though I'm a podcast network owner now, I want to go back to the stand-up comedy thing. I feel like it's kind of like being a professor. Like if you don't write term papers, are you still tenured?
Right. It's like in the last Indiana Jones movie when Harrison Ford goes, you want to be an archaeologist, you got to get out of the library.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with you. You're like, I got to get back into where the audience is,
Well, what about you, man? I love the branding. We're wearing a shirt. He should see her. Like, what's next for the show?
For the show, well, it's funny you asked that because what we got coming up after this episode that we're doing now is we're going to be doing a Christmas episode. It's going to be a sequel to last year's Christmas fiasco. We did because apparently I found out from a tweet from I think her name was Cat Reynolds. I almost said Cat Stevens, the singer, but Cat Reynolds from New York had tweeted that all the reindeers were ladies. So I made an episode based around what she presented on Twitter, and I had a love story about reindeers that I called Vixen and Vinny last year. So now this new one is going to have an ugly sweater contest built into the episode where people need to guess, okay, which movie and which famous director from the 70s is this episode going to be referencing? Because it's going to be focusing on two other reindeers. One is going to be Dawn, or the other one I'll save that as a surprise for the contest.
Blows my mind, but isn't Donner like Rudolph's little dad? Like, how can they all be female? Like,
I don't know. That's what made it fun, because I was like, okay, apparently, Rudolph's a lady now, so so I'm as I'm writing this, I'm picturing how a female would say, because I have female actors, actresses, portraying them, so I figure, well, you know what, a lot of women are probably going to be very happy about that, so
absolutely. That's
they'll be like, oh, this is good for us, let's share this at the Women's Book Club, check out this podcast, because I try to sometimes do edgy humor, because how it is. Sometimes you're up on the stage, like you want to give something for everybody,
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to sometimes push the envelope, but also sometimes you want to bring other people in, so finding that balance is always something that is always a work in progress for a comic. Wouldn't you agree?
I have to agree. Just for clarification, I looked it up. Bitsin's actually Rudolph's dad, but they're all women now, so don't worry about it. No, forget what I said. Bada boom. No, you're right. There is. I think there is even comedy and alt comedy at the core of it. And then again, if it's a gross simplification, I apologize to those alt comics out there. Is that when you're a comedian, your job is to make your secondary job is to make people laugh. Your first job is to entertain. Your second job is to make people laugh. You do that by presenting entertainment that they'll find funny. Alt comedy is the opposite. It goes, I'm going to present what I feel, and I want the audience to come to my level to laugh at that. And so it is a difference of philosophy. They both can work. Andy Kaufman did both very well.
They can coexist. Yeah,
they can coexist. I'm going really old school because I'm an old school comic person. If you remember the golden age of television, Sid Caesar was a comic. Ernie Kovacs was alt comedy, like prototypical alt comedy sort of thing. But for me, I like to think of myself as late night, so clean plus. I love innuendo. I love suggesting things to get people to go, hey, what do you mean, kind of a thing.
Right.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, whether or not you have them entertained or you have them on a journey or them hang on every word, you want them to feel good after you're on stage. Not like,
Exactly.
who the heck booked that guy? Oh,
Exactly.
geez.
It has to be like a good feeling, not like, oh my God, you hear what he said about so-and-so, you know?
Yeah.
Because, I understand they say, it's like sometimes controversy sells. And yes, to a degree, but it's like, it's all about how it's presented. It's all about how you put it out there, how you package it,
Absolutely. Controversy is without tact or being that without tactfulness. It's kind of like, okay, you're just hurting people's feelings. But if you approach it like, no, really, why is this? What is the deal with people?
What is the deal?
Yeah. But then again, there's always backlash because we complained about airline food for 20 years. And guess what? We can't even get that anymore.
Exactly.
Like, you know what?
They're like, wait, I can't get my roasted peanuts, even though I was complaining that they tasted all stale. What kind of airline you're running here?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man.
Wow, Flo, well, it's been great having you on the show, and it's a pleasure to meet you as well. And I have, a good feeling that we're going to be crossing paths very shortly again in the somewhat not too distant future.
Oh yeah, same here. Thanks for having me. And I really mean it. If I'm ever getting like an introduction somewhere, I'm gonna call you. I want you to be like, yo.
You got it, man. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
All right, we'll be right back. Is traveling with an extra pair of sneakers a pain in the ass? Kickstrap is the only attachable shoe bag that secures around any backpack or golf bag that allows you to carry your extra pair of sneakers hands-free while it separates dirt and odor away from your personal belongings inside your bag. Kickstrap is made from water-resistant, top-grade, ripstop polyester and is sold on Amazon. Get yours today by searching Kickstrap Shoe Bag on Amazon or by visiting www.kickstrap.co. That's KICKSTRAP.co. Everyone sees the world through a different lens. Some of us even process information very differently than others. Some of us get overwhelmed more easily than others. But an open heart can open any mind.
You may not know what's going on in my head, or even understand
On Imagination Street, one book at a time, which is now available on Kindle and Amazon, the puzzle comes together. Combining fiction and fantasy, we can see autism in a different light. And to help paint the picture of Imagination Street, there is music by Matthias Signoroldi on Audible and Apple Books. One day Imagination Street will be available in multiple languages, and Matthias Signoroldi has translated Book 1 into Italian. For more information, visit imagination-street.com. That's imagination, the dash symbol, street.com. I am the author and narrator of the Imagination Street book series, Mike Fox, and I approve this message. That was a great conversation with Flobo Boyce, wasn't it? As you heard, Flobo is a native of California. Now, speaking of California, did you know that in California, there are some pretty strange laws? Why don't we back this up a bit? The Golden State, which is as beautiful and spacious as it is, has some of the dumbest laws in the whole wide world. We're going to play a few audio recordings for you of innocent people that didn't know they were breaking some of California's dumbest laws, as well as people that couldn't get charged because the dumb law, that's right, the dumb law protected them.
In California, there's many dumb laws. A squatter can't be removed too fast.
Man can't kiss if he has a mustache.
California's dumbest laws.
This first clip shows a woman picking up her son from his high school ski club trip to Lake Tahoe.
I hope I can go back to sleep after I pick up Johnny and drive home. Oh, I'm so tired. I hope the bus is there when I get to the school.
Stop right there.
Oh, what seems to be the problem, officer? I wasn't speeding. I'm on my way to pick up my son.
Driving in a nightie?
I didn't know it was illegal to drive at night in California.
It's not, but you were driving in your nightgown.
That's just dumb.
Pretty stupid, huh? That mother was hoping to pick up her son, drive home, and resume her sleep that was interrupted because she had to wake up, drive over to the school to pick up her son from a ski trip. Come on, California. But did you know also in California, this is interesting, even though you can't drive in a nightgown per se, you're allowed to drive bare feet. That's right, you can drive bare feet, but just not in a nightgown. If you live in Los Angeles, though, and let's say you feel like doing a good deed out of the goodness of your own heart, you may want to bypass this next particular good deed for your neighbor in this clip. Honey, look at our neighbor's car.
Yo, it's so dirty. I can see spider webs everywhere.
You know what? I'm going to wash it.
Wait, honey.
Stop right there. You're not working at the car wash, are you?
Did you want your squad car clean too, officer?
Sure. You could even use some of that turtle wax. Because you're not my neighbor.
What do you mean?
I tried to tell you, honey. It's illegal to wash your neighbor's car here in Los Angeles.
Now that is just a dumb law, California. That husband would have been better off ignoring the dirty car and heading off to the supermarket with his wife. Though he may have to pay for his groceries, unless him and his wife did a little bit of shop blanking. You'll fill in the blanks after you listen to this clip of this couple in the produce aisle.
Sweetheart, were you able to find the
Cauliflower? Yeah, I got it right here.
cauliflower?
Oh, sorry. I figured it was a state vegetable. Get it, Callie?
You're so funny. How about the okra?
Okras. Yeah, I got them. They look nasty, but here you go. But these mac and cheese plants I got, they're pretty tasty. I got them from the hot food aisle.
Hang on, honey. That wasn't part of the plan.
What do you mean it wasn't part of the plan? I'm so hungry. Check it out, Mama. I got us some Spanish food. Look, fried plantains.
Sir, did you pay for that hot food?
Oh, look, honey. It's security. We've got to get out of here.
Honey, let's go.
Ma'am, you also need to pay for your vegetables.
Not according to Proposition 47.
Our food theft is under $950, so we're good to go.
Okay, have a nice day. You heard that? Under Proposition 47 in California, thefts under $950. That's right, $950 will not lead to prosecution. Let's move on to a law about squatters. I'm not talking about these types of squats. I'm talking about people that don't leave your house. Strangers in your house. In this clip, this wife comes home from work and finds a couple eating in their home.
What's going on here?
Who are you?
Who are you?
What? We're like squatters.
And we're enjoying some lentil soup. You want some?
Smells good. But wait, this is my house. I'm calling the cops.
You like can't make us leave.
Where's my spoon? Where are you?
You dropped it in the soup, man.
Oh, I didn't know where it was. Maybe we can spoon later.
Only if you finish your soup.
Okay.
911, what's your emergency?
There's 2 hippies in my house hitting soup.
Soup is not illegal, ma'am.
No, they don't live here. I just go back from vacation and these people I don't know are eating soup in my kitchen.
Squatters have rights, ma'am.
What?
They have 5 days to leave your property after you file an unlawful detainer.
What?
You sure you don't want some soup, lady? By the way, I fixed your cuckoo clock. All I did was use Roots cuckoo oil, and now it's working fine.
Well, even though that law is a bit cuckoo, at least her unexpected visitors/squatters turned out to be actually quite hospitable. For our final clip for tonight. Did you know that in the city of Eureka, I think that's the company that makes the tents, right? There's laws about kissing, and it's not about kissing in tents. It's about kissing men that have one of these. And take a listen to this wedding that's about to be busted up, and not by the father of the bride. Do you take this beautiful woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Do you take this man with a mustache to be your lawfully wedded husband?
I do.
I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss.
Hey, Pig Day, not so fast.
Officer, what seems to be the...
Unless you plan on using this.
A razor?
And some cream.
What, ice cream?
Didn't you know you can't kiss a woman in Eureka if you have a mustache?
Really? Wow.
I won't arrest you, though, if you shave.
It's okay, honey. We can always move out of Eureka if you want to grow it back.
I do.
Allow me.
I'm stopping this clip in case she nicks her husband. Then that'll be the name of their next child. This has been He Said, She Heard presents California's Dumbest Laws. Good night.
In California, there's many dumb laws. In a night course, you can drive too far.
In LA, you can't wash your friend's car.
California's dumbest laws.